If you told that little girl that, she would say, how? How on earth? I can't fathom how. And what I learned from my experience and reflection traveling through Asia and seeing these things, you don't need to know the how. You just need to know your why, having purpose, and following your intention and letting that lead the way.
Welcome to Unlocking Commerce and Business. I'm your host, Connie Davis, talking about the shifting tides of commerce and emotional navigation in business. Like a lighthouse in a storm, this podcast is designed to illuminate the why behind business dreams and projects and explores the flow of money and Web3. I designed the show to illuminate potential connections that you, the audience, can make from each and every episode to fuel potential growth and collaboration with thought leaders like our guest today, working to unlock commerce around the world. So if you hear something in today's episode, like, subscribe, or comment, and we'll see you soon. So now let's set sail and introduce today's guest. Today, I'm here with beautiful Lani Gonzales, a St. Pete Women's Chamber member I had the honor to spend time with earlier this year. A little lunch, some coffee in a local shop, and I've been inspired by her journey in captivating storytelling ever since. So Lani, I know that you just returned from some would say is a trip of a lifetime. Tell us a little bit about you and what inspired that magnificent trip.
Ooh, so like you said, my name is Lani Gonzales. I am a recovering attorney. I became a lawyer at 23 and a partner at a law firm, and it was intellectually stimulating, and I enjoyed what I did for a while. I call that my first mountain. They say that there's that first mountain that you climb. A lot of people, it's chasing success as what society tells you success is. It's maybe filling your pocket, maybe buying a house, all those things. But when you reach the top of the first mountain, you go, uh-oh, is that it? It was incredibly unfulfilling to have all of those things. And when you are at the top of the second mountain, you see in the horizon, oh, there's a second mountain. And what that second mountain is, how do we tie our purpose, our gifts with actually changing the world? And as a business owner, how do we make it profitable? So I am currently on my second mountain. I am a clinical hypnotherapist. I do psychedelic assisted therapy. I also do nonprofit work that helps provide emotional regulation and social emotional learning to schools nationwide. I also cultivate women's groups. So having women come together and empowering them to live the most authentic versions of their lives. And what inspired me to go on a trip very recently. So I very recently went to Vietnam, Cambodia, and the Philippines. And there's a couple of things that inspired that. Number one, I was in a season of feeling burnt out myself. Even though I left the lawyer scene, my nervous system was very overly stimulated. And the values that I had as an attorney, I saw bleeding into my other practices. And I didn't want to drain myself out. So I entered this season of what is the bare minimum that I can do for my business and the maximum I can do for me. And that is incredibly terrifying for many business owners to say the bare minimum for your business, especially for people who are solopreneurs like myself, who trade time for money. For example, when I see clients, if I'm not working, I'm not making money. So a couple of things behind that. Automation is incredibly important. Leveraging AI to the best of your ability so you can run around and go to Vietnam and Cambodia and Asia and have that time to yourself where you are restoring yourself. Because as an entrepreneur, someone trying to build a legacy, you build with intention, but you restore and rest with intention as well. So that was one of the motivations for what I was doing. Another thing with bare minimum for my business and maximum for me is it gave me a lot of perspective. And some of the perspectives I saw, one of the greatest ones for myself is I actually visited the Philippines where I'm from. And I like to see how real people live. And I went to sweatshops. I went to factories. I went to towns that were completely dedicated to creating a craft that, for example, an incense stick. I will burn an incense stick in my home and think nothing of it. Now I cannot. Every time I burn an incense, I think of the amount of work and labor that actually went into it. Um, so really appreciating all of the things that we have. And the other thing is, my family actually came from a developing country, from the Philippines. And when I saw people in sweatshops, when I was approached by children working on the street trying to sell things, I saw what could have been my future. I said, that could have been me. If not for the actions of my parents, that would have been me. In fact, that was my parents. My mom started working uh, when she was able to walk and talk. She didn't even have all the words, but all she knew how to say is balot and how much it costs. And that's what she would do. And that was life. And that would have been my life if not for the sacrifices of my parents. So that was an incredibly humbling experience. And another big lesson is, even as an entrepreneur, there will be moments when you doubt yourself, where you don't know the next step. But you don't need to know the next step when you are creating a business with intention and purpose, and letting that intention and purpose lead. And I think about my mother, who worked in one of those sweatshops, sewing, and worked as a child. If you were to approach that little girl my mom was and said, hey, one day you are going to be in America and you will want for nothing. You'll own multiple properties. I know you don't have air conditioning or plumbing right now, and you don't brush your teeth with a toothbrush, you brush them with sticks, but one day you will be able to provide for all of your family based on businesses you built in America. If you told that little girl that, she would say, how? How on earth? I can't fathom how. And what I learned from my experience and reflection traveling through Asia and seeing these things, you don't need to know the how. You just need to know your why, having purpose and following your intention and letting that lead the way. So those were the values that I really got from that trip. And also for us entrepreneurs who work quite a bit and don't want to step away from work, sometimes stepping away is what we need in order to see the details that will complete the masterpiece. So.
Lonnie, that is like so profound and such a great opportunity for us to reconnect with the why, which is what this show is all about. And I think we take for granted sometimes here in America, like just how blessed we are. And for our listeners in St. Petersburg, right here, it's such a vibrant hub for entrepreneurs. And there's so much activity happening in and around this community. The Conscious Capitalism Alliance, though, that you co-founded, is gaining traction. And I know you're doing all these amazing events like the Mastermind style gatherings at 15th Street Farm. Can you share a story of maybe the stories that you're hearing where business owners are embracing this conscious capitalism principle that you're setting up through the Alliance, and how they're going to play that out in their role of the community?
Yes, absolutely. So the group that we've created, myself and Tina Hernandez, we have been working a lot. Both of us at our heart believe that the world can be a better place. We see the world as it is and know it can be better, and we know that we can do better. So we have both for years in our own independent businesses have tried, but then we've said, wait just a minute. If we combine our forces, we can actually do better and we can change our world. We are more powerful together. And what we realized is, when we connect and combine the efforts of entrepreneurs with intention and purpose, who lead with intention and purpose, our impact is magnified. So that is really the foundation of the Conscious Capitalism Alliance. It is joining together visionaries, creators, entrepreneurs who want to combine their intentions in order to do something bigger and something better. And I'll give you an example, a personal example for myself. I did all the things that you're supposed to do as an entrepreneur when I started my hypnotherapy practice. You have your social media, your email campaigns, you automate those things. I was going out in the public and I was doing public speaking. That was exhausting. And while it worked and I got business, I got new clients, it was fine. But, it's just me, and the sustainability of that, oof, who knows? Now, once upon a time, I decided to collaborate. I was actually invited to collaborate with a woman. She is a functional medicine practitioner. And she said, hey, what about we join forces? And in joining forces, her clients were able to receive information from me that sustained me in a really tough period while a lot of people in the wellness space, their business slows down in the summer. Mine did the complete opposite because I chose to collaborate. Her business fed me, and my business is now feeding her. So when we talk about consciousness, collaboration, and a bigger word here, regenerative business models, that does not mean that we are not making profit and this is all nonprofit. It's about sustaining each other, building each other, and multiplying our power. It actually goes beyond sustainability. Regenerative business models are bigger, more impactful than sustainable business models.
Absolutely. And it really leads the path to my next question, which is really where we kind of converge and where I think I really picked up on the spirit of community building that when we first met that day, we had so much to talk about with community building. We felt that at the chamber with the women. We felt it at the coffee shop with the little huddles of what was happening. And I'm in tech, so emerging technologies that I'm immersed in is going to be everything that is meant to be regenerative, right? It's meant to be decentralized. It's meant to give power and choice and empowerment back to the people, right? That are using the technology, that are the creators you talk about.
Mhm.
So blockchain and Web3 sounds super intimidating, but your model and my work is prioritizing trust and awareness and inclusion and all these great, beautiful buzzwords like transparency and equity.
Yeah.
And, as I draw from my own work, we have third world type populations and communities here in our communities in Florida alone that are economically unempowered. And so, do you see the Alliance potentially encouraging St. Pete businesses to integrate innovative tools like what I'm working through, and maybe like inviting communities like Bitcoin Bay Foundation, the International Blockchain Group, to maybe educate on these newer technologies too as we build out these models?
Yeah, absolutely. So part of the work that you do and part of the work that I do is showing people there's more than one way to do business. There's more than one way to obtain abundance, and embracing all of these different new ways of thinking and being and incorporating them into what we have now is how we change the world. So absolutely. So whether it's through Bitcoin or blockchain or all of these new technologies, it's important to start opening our eyes and considering alternatives to how we do business, how we relate to the people in our community, because take a look. How is our current system doing so far? So, the next thing we need to do once we admit that what's happening right now isn't that great, we need to start exploring what the alternatives are and how we can integrate them and learn about them together. So, absolutely.
Is so encouraging because there's such a divide right now. I mean, you can feel it. You can feel like there's this, invisible wall and there's, people building up their trust and they don't trust the systems and there's this learning curve. So I really do think that conscious capitalism emphasizes conscious leadership with these companies that are existing and trying to see how we're supposed to navigate the tide change. And that's what I talk about is we're exploring a tide change and there's people around your community that can help you do that. When as someone who champions emotional wellness like you for families and business owners in my work with Maiden Explorations, I'd love to hear how you foster to pull those qualities out through the meets that you're doing with business owners and what practices you've seen transform leadership in the community so far.
Absolutely. So our group is a little bit different. A lot of times we'll go to a networking group and it'll be, who are you? Do your elevator pitch. What do you got for us? What
Yeah.
do you want to sell? And we're going to do things differently. And in fact, if what I'm about to say scares you, maybe just maybe it's time to reevaluate how you do business. We are going to come together. You state your name, you state your why, and you state who you serve. And it's taking it to a deeper level of what is our why and letting that be what leads us, not necessarily what is our branding, what is our marketing, what's our new spiel. It's what is your why and how does your why and my why come together so that we can help each other build a new dream. And when we talk about good businesses, better businesses, that starts with good leaders. And you know it, and I know it, and even people who know nothing about business, they know it. You can tell the difference between someone who builds something because they want to feel powerful versus someone who feels powerful and worthy and creates from that space. The energy is different. How they try to get clients, how they market is entirely different. So if you are a person who is tired of how people do business, what we do with Conscious Capitalism Alliance is showing them a different way, starting with the person, the visionary who is driving. And if they are not connected to their why, they're not connected to their own power, and they're simply trying to build in order to prove that they're powerful, we're going to shift that to a different point of view so that we can build something that is regenerative.
Yeah, that sounds like an incredible heart-centered space of just change makers that are coming together to form these meaningful partnerships and alliances. That's powerful. So what's your vision for growing the movement in St. Pete and then beyond? And then what are what do you think small business owners that are listening today can do to get involved and amplify their voice and impact through the alliance? Can they do it just in St. Pete alone? Is that where you're starting? What's that look like?
Right now, we are starting in St. Pete and we're doing it as a collective mastermind. So while it is incredibly heart centered, I like to think of it as heart, hands, as well, and mind. So having all three integrate. So it's not just this feeling space of intention. It's how do we combine our why, our intention, our love and devotion with strategy so that we actually have an impact. So one of the biggest thing that we're trying to do with the business owners is creating regenerative business models. So I mentioned power before and people creating from a space of power. And I liken it to this. When you think of power for the pure sake of power without intention, it's just brute force. And when you have business without intention, that is extraction and not actually enterprise. So when we talk about extraction, you are causing harm, you are taking from the people and planet for short-term gain. There are some businesses that have moved towards sustainability. And when we talk about sustainability, it's how do we maintain the resources that we have now? How do we not cause harm? That's that's incredible. It's a great step. But now we're going to shift and we're going to do something bigger than sustainability, and that is regenerative business models. They actually add value to the community, add value to other people and the planet, and that value compounds and multiplies when you put strategy, intention, and heart all together. So our ultimate goal is for the business owners in St. Petersburg to do better. Create business models that are not simply extracting, and we are creating enterprises that add value to the people around us, our environment, our planet, and doing that together. So I understand that that is a bold notion. How do I do business to not just line my pocket, but to actually help our community? And we are here to do it together. So it is a mastermind of people who have the same intention and strategy, who are helping businesses to create regenerative business models.
Mm-mm-mm. Oh, there's so much that aligns with my heart there on that. And as a nonprofit co-founder, and then just being out in the community as an entrepreneur myself, there's so much resistance to that new way of, it's called like new way of thinking, or you're crazy, you're making, this is like utopia. We're never going to reach utopia. So starting and sustaining a movement like that feels like swimming upstream, right? Swimming against the current. What type of resistance, if any, maybe you haven't, because you're a hell of a storyteller, and you just have this beautiful way with words, which is so captivating. But when you talk to the community that's coming for the first time, how do you help them have that light bulb go on when they have to shift from the old way of thinking about business, which is transactional, into this heart-centered hands and movement space that you're describing?
Well, it's interesting because when we talk about regenerative business models, a lot of people think of it as this new age, new way of thinking. It's actually the original way of thinking.
Yes.
When you look pre-industrial revolution and how people created businesses and how they supported themselves and their family. It was a regenerative business model. So I liken this to agricultural era, and I tell people about community and how community is how we heal. For example, and I gave this before, this example. Let's say that there is Farmer Bob, and Farmer Bob is sick. And Farmer Bob is where all the community gets its milk. If Farmer Bob is sick, they help out with Farmer Bob. They'll help him with his farm. They'll help him get better. Why? Because they understand that they need Farmer Bob. If Farmer Bob doesn't supply what he's meant to supply, then what about everybody else? And we recognize that we are not isolated. There is community, and the effects that affects one business will affect multitudes. And I'm going to give you practical examples. The wellness space, especially what I'm going to call the fringe wellness space, my business is included. When the economy plunges, we're going to be one of the first to go down. We're the low-hanging fruit. It just is what it is. So we need even more intention, and we need even more collaboration. And I'll give you an example. Let's say the average for a sound bath, if you're a sound bath practitioner, is $30 to $35. Let's say that you get desperate, or you decide that you want a deal, and now your sound baths are $10. You've just undermined your craft. You've undermined your profession, and you're undermining eventually other people within your profession. But they don't see it that way. They see it as, well, it's fine. I'm just doing it as a labor of love, or I'm not getting clients and I need more people in my door, so I'm going to reduce the cost of what I'm doing. What they don't understand is that their actions directly influence everybody else. So starting everyone to understand that it's not just about you, and what the people in your community do and other entrepreneurs do will impact you directly. And that is not a new way of thinking. That was the original way of thinking. So really shifting and understanding that we did business differently before the Industrial Revolution. And now we're entering these new eras. So we are in the digital era, then the AI era. We don't have to adhere to one way of doing business. We never have. So it's always shifted and evolved. And why not incorporate some of the things that we have forgotten that actually worked, that made things sustainable and regenerative?
So you mentioned this, pattern of what I call cannibalism in our industries, right? And we see it in these vertical silos where you've got, I call it the cheesecake factory. I don't know if I can say that on here, but might have to cut that out. But I call it this menu, right? With all of these overwhelming choices. And there's all of these ways, and there's so much technology now. And I see so many business owners really struggling for the time balance, right? It's like, do I spend my time on tech, or do I spend my time serving my customers and my clients, and building community relationships that really fuel this collaboration? Because collaboration is the way to do things going forward. That's what community is all about. So what advice do you have for your community, just based on the Web 2 tools that we're kind of in this world of Web 2 and current commerce, which is moving money from person to person, very transactional, sharing the profit off of your bottom line with the mediators, right? The gateway keepers that move the money for us. And how do you see that evolving in this alliance?
I will say step one is always breathe, right? It sounds like a huge endeavor to say, how do I evolve? How do I create these new technologies, these new systems? Do I focus on technology or AI? Do I focus on servicing my clients and maintaining the status quo? A big question is, why do I have to shift if it's already working, right? Let's say there's a business and they've been doing business for a long time. If it ain't broken, why fix it, right? Is a question that you may come across. So I'm going to answer this in a couple ways. Number one, times are changing, things are evolving, and even if it worked before, it's important to stay ahead of the game. And if you are not ahead of the game, ultimately you will find that you are trying to catch up. Catch up is incredibly hard, and a lot of entrepreneurs know that. If you've been doing business, trying to catch up on anything is an endeavor in itself. So while the tides are changing and there are new technologies, new systems, join it so that you are not in the process of catching up all the time, and you are part of the new wave. And in terms of, do I spend a lot of time trying to learn about new technologies and implement them, or do I service my clients? It's not a this or that. It's a this and that. And I'm going to ask a different question. What is it that we're doing that we are not having enough time to do all of those things? And is it a matter of not having proper systems? Is it a matter of we're not hiring people because we're trying to save money, so then we're doing everything ourselves? Are we not getting the correct support? Because one of the important things too in entrepreneurship is delegation. Are we delegating to the appropriate system? So if you're a solopreneur like myself and you're asking those questions, it's not a how do I do this or that? It's these things are important in order to have a business that survives this new era, this shift in how we do business. How do I make it happen? Whether it's getting additional resources, whether it's creating new systems, it's not a this or that. All things are feasible. We all have 24 hours in a day. It's how do we shift so that we can make the best of our time? And I assure you, with the proper systems, the efficiency, the regenerative business models where other businesses are helping you as well and the community is helping you, that shift is possible.
It is so possible. And it really comes down to intention. It comes down to choice and intention and then free will to apply it. So, as we wrap up, tell us how we can find you, what you got going on that's like up and coming that you want everybody to know. And is there anything that you need?
Ooh, one of the things that I would love, what I would need for the entrepreneurs out there is recognizing, and I understand, we create these businesses and we put a lot of ourselves into it. And it is important to put money in our pockets. Absolutely. I'm not saying don't make profit, but have a purpose and recognize that the reason that you are thriving is because you live in a community. It is not just about your economic capital, your money. There is social capital and there's environmental capital. And while your business is successful, it's successful because of the environment. The seed you planted, it grew because of the soil. So when we are entrepreneurs and we are creating businesses, serve the community that is serving you. Even if you don't realize it, there is no such thing as a self-made man. And it is important to service the community and the soil that helped your seed grow. So that is one of my needs, is to recognize that you are not alone in this. And as you become abundant, share that abundance with your community. Ways you can find me. There is the Conscious Capitalism Alliance. We meet once a month at the 15th Street Farm. When 100% of the proceeds go to the farm and all you're paying for is a 3-course meal, I believe it's around 35, 50, I don't know. Forgive me. I don't know what they cost because I'm not making the profit, but it's a reasonable cost and it goes to the farm and it's coming together with people like myself to create regenerative business models and support each other in what we do. So that is one way to find me. I also host women's groups. So there's the Goddess Growth Collective, and that is helping empower women as well. So those are the two things that are near and dear to my heart that are coming up. The Goddess Growth Collective is every Wednesday, and the Conscious Capitalism Alliance, that is once a month.
Awesome. Well, Lani, thank you for being such a bright, shiny light on the show with me today. I truly feel your heart coming through, and I'm so excited to immerse with you guys. So thank you for your time today.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Great.